She hit on me, and I just couldn't turn her down, you know? I guess I'm just that charming. But man, being with a younger woman was incredible. I never thought she'd get pregnant so quickly, though. Still, it's family, and I'm not planning to take anything from my son. We're probably gonna end up living together, which I'm actually looking forward to. It took me a moment to understand what Jerry was talking about as he spoke on the phone with a friend. I didn't fully grasp the situation, but the pale face of my son, Ethan, right in front of me, gave it away.
What? I seriously don't get it. This is really happening, isn't it?
Ethan muttered, not asking anyone for confirmation. I couldn't find the words to respond. But I couldn't just go on living without knowing everything. After finding out everything, Ethan began plotting his revenge. Determined to send Jerry to hell, I decided to fully support him. My name is Linda Green. I'm 46 years old. Living with my husband Jerry, our son Ethan, and our daughter Jessica. It's a family of 4. Currently, I'm working part-time in an administrative role at a local company. I've been with this company since I graduated high school, took a break for childbirth and childcare, but started working again once the kids didn't need so much attention. I have good relationships with my colleagues at work, and my family life is harmonious. While it's a rather ordinary life, I've come to feel strongly that this is the happiest way to live. In the midst of such a life, if I dare say there's a complaint, it might be about my husband, Jerry. Jerry turned 50 this year. Unlike me, he's an active person who seeks thrilling experiences, often saying, "I can't stand being at home all the time." He's always loved going out and has had a variety of hobbies since his younger days. When the kids were little, he would take us fishing, camping, or hiking, and we even played golf together as a family. To outsiders, Jerry seemed like the ideal father, and we were often envied for it. But what you see from the outside isn't everything. While he is curious and enthusiastic, Jerry also gets bored very easily. He always goes all in when starting something new. Buying expensive fishing rods, camping gear, and golf equipment. Every time he picks up a new hobby, he spends hundreds of dollars to get all the gear, only to use it a few times before it gets stowed away. Never to see the light of day again.
Dad, I want to go fishing again. Dad, I want to go camping.
Even when the kids ask him like this, once he's lost interest, he doesn't bother. "Nah, I'm over that," he'd say, and that would be the end of it. He might have seemed like a good father to those looking from the outside, but Jerry was really just doing what he wanted to do. He wasn't doing these activities with the kids or me, he was making us go along with whatever he felt like doing at the time. Eventually, the kids caught on to this.
"Hey, let's all go get scuba diving licenses during summer break this year."
Even when Jerry would suggest something like this, the kids would respond, "No way. You'll just quit once it gets fun, or besides, getting gear for all 4 of us costs a lot of money. You're just gonna stop using it after a while." So, they stopped going along with his proposals. I think the kids have a point. I feel the same way. But Jerry just gets mad at them. What the hell? I was thinking it'd be nice for all of us to do something together. He'd grumble and complain, acting more like a child than the actual children. When our younger daughter, Jessica, reached middle school, Jerry practically stopped getting any attention from the kids at all. However, that didn't mean he settled down. Now, believe it or not, he started getting into gambling. But unlike his previous hobbies, gambling didn't require a large initial investment. And surely, he'd get bored of it soon enough. I decided it was actually convenient for me if he would just go out quietly by himself on his days off. I didn't know how long this hobby would last, but I chose to just keep an eye on him.
"Hey Linda, listen to this. I won $1,000 today. I'm pretty awesome, huh?"
Luckily, Jerry didn't end up losing a significant amount of money. Sometimes he'd win $1,000, other times $300, or a few tens of dollars. The amount varied, but he seemed to be winning overall. What? $1,000? That's amazing.
It makes working seem kinda stupid, doesn't it?
He would joke like this from time to time, devoting his time to his new hobby. But after half a year of gambling, Jerry stopped bragging about his winnings. "Haven't heard about you winning recently. Not doing so well?" When I asked, he would boastfully reply, "What are you talking about? I'm a genius. I keep winning every time I go. It's just too much hassle to report it every time. Besides, I'm saving it as my secret stash." Well, I had things to say, but he was diligently going to work and gambling within reason, creating a secret stash for himself. I couldn't really say anything about it. I was worried, but he had never stuck with a hobby for more than a year. I thought he would get bored of it soon. However, contrary to my expectations, Jerry didn't quit gambling. He even made some friends and continued his gambling sprees on weekends for over a year. One day, while I was feeling somewhat fed up with Jerry, I went shopping at the supermarket. As usual, I tried to pay with the card we use for living expenses when the cashier told me, "I'm sorry, but the transaction isn't going through." Thinking the card's magnetic strip might be damaged, I quickly took out my personal card and said, "Sorry about that. Please use this one," and completed the payment. The living expenses card was a family card issued under Jerry's name, with withdrawals coming from his bank account. So, I needed to talk to him about it, and I brought it up that night. Today at the supermarket, they told me my card wasn't working. They said the magnetic strip might be damaged, so could you please take care of the reissuance process for me? And with that, I handed my card over to Jerry. However, days went by and Jerry did nothing about it. Feeling suspicious, I decided to call the credit card company myself, but they told me they couldn't proceed unless Jerry called them. Reluctantly, I continued using my own card while waiting for the reissuance. Then one day, I noticed a letter from the credit card company. Wondering when Jerry had finally taken care of it, and desperate because I was out of funds, I assumed it was my new card and opened the letter without confirming with Jerry first. But when I saw the contents, my eyes widened in shock.
The payment didn't go through? What does this mean?
It was a letter urging me to deposit money into the account. The account they were referring to was the one Jerry's salary gets deposited into. There was no way the payment couldn't have gone through. I rushed to check the balance. To my astonishment, there was only $300 left. There were signs of multiple withdrawals made with a card at the ATM. It was undeniable. This was Jerry's doing. Trying to contain my fury, I went back home. And that day, as soon as Jerry came back, I lashed out at him.
What were you thinking?
Whoa! What's all this about all of a sudden?
Don't play dumb. There's hardly any money left in the account. What are we supposed to live on this month?
At my words, Jerry laughed it off evasively. I lost a bit gambling, so I borrowed some. It's not like I touched our savings or anything. It won't make much of a difference, right? And unbelievably, he said it without a shred of guilt. I was furious at Jerry's nonchalant attitude. The card wasn't even demagnetized. It was just temporarily blocked, so it was unusable for a while. Jerry knew this, so he didn't bother with the reissuance process. Even if he had told me honestly, it's not something I could easily forgive, but the fact that he kept silent and even tried to deceive me made me feel betrayed.
No more gambling, okay?
I said, and for once, Jerry looked annoyed.
What's that all about? I've been losing a bit these past few months, but I'm still ahead overall. Just quit while you're ahead.
He retorted like a child, wearing a sulky expression, and I'd scolded him once again. After that, Jerry's attitude worsened. What a boring family. You won't even let me do what I enjoy. He would mutter complaints and treat me like an enemy for forbidding him from gambling. But it would be too late if our financial situation got out of hand. Our kids were still students. There were tuition fees to think about. Our marital relationship couldn't be described as good anymore, and Jerry was probably bored with our married life, but divorce wasn't a simple option. Hoping to maintain a harmonious home at least until our children were grown, I spent my days trying to keep Jerry in a good mood. Then, a happy event occurred in our family. Ethan, who had graduated from high school and was working, had found a girlfriend and wanted to introduce her to me. Her name was Mandy. She was the same age as Ethan, had moved from the countryside, and was working in the city. Apparently, they met through a friend of hers who worked at the same place. A new breeze seemed to blow into our family, and I welcomed Mandy with open arms.
The meals made by you are so delicious.
Mandy was a really good girl. We would sometimes eat together, and she would always say that. She seems to go cafe hopping with Jessica as well, and it didn't take long for her to blend in with our family. Of course, Mandy was also very good to Jerry. She would keep him company during his evening drinks, and she's the only one in our house who would listen to Jerry's stories. It seems like Jerry has taken a liking to her, saying, "I wish Ethan would marry Mandy and make her my daughter-in-law." Of course, I totally agree with that idea. Ethan and Mandy were only 20, but it seems like they were seriously thinking about their future. Then, after a while, they informed us that they had decided to get married at the age of 23.
Why 23?
I simply wondered. Then, Ethan said, "I think getting married costs money. I want to give Mandy the wedding she dreams of, so we thought we'd save up money together until then." I was utterly impressed by these words, not expecting such maturity from a 20-year-old. Of course, we have enough savings to give them a wedding. But Ethan doesn't want to rely on us. He'd rather be the one to support others, he said. Even though the wedding was still a long way off, I was moved to tears. To signify that Mandy was already halfway part of our family, we decided to start referring to her not as Ethan's girlfriend, but as his fiancé. However, after some time, Ethan told us that Mandy was pregnant. Just the other day, they said they would marry at 23, so this sudden news took me by surprise.
Pregnant. I've heard both of your feelings on this, so that's not the problem, but...
I told Ethan, but his face remained clouded.
Is something wrong?
But Mandy can't be pregnant. Ethan muttered reluctantly in response to my question. I couldn't grasp the intent behind his words and tilted my head in confusion. As if to add insult to injury, Ethan continued.
I was on a business trip when she would have conceived. So, it can't be my child.
Ethan's cry of anguish pierced my heart. Was Mandy unfaithful? But I can't see her as that kind of girl. Ethan said it himself.
But Mandy insists she absolutely didn't cheat. I just don't know what to do anymore.
Ethan was holding his head in his hands. Seeing him like this, I decided that I wanted to talk to Mandy, so I asked Ethan if he could arrange a meeting. I decided to keep quiet about it with Jerry until things became clear. It's a delicate issue, and I couldn't see how Jerry stepping in would resolve anything. However, the truth came out in an unexpected way. One evening, Jerry didn't come to the dinner table.
Ethan, could you call your dad for me?
I couldn't leave what I was doing, so I asked Ethan to call Jerry. Ethan went to call him, but after a while, neither of them came back.
I wonder what happened.
Leaving the preparations to Jessica, I headed to the bedroom. There, I saw Ethan, standing with a pale face.
What's wrong?
When I spoke to him, he gestured with his finger on his lips for me to be quiet, signaling something was wrong. As I approached the bedroom door, I could hear Jerry's voice inside.
Well, now I'm set for life.
It seemed like he was on the phone. Jerry talking on the phone? It must be with one of his shady friends he met through gambling. I looked at Ethan's face. If it was just a phone call, he could have just said Dad's on the phone and come back. Judging by his complexion, this was surely no ordinary call. And the next sentence made that crystal clear. I couldn't say no when she came on to me. I do have a way with the ladies, you know. And man, young women are the best. I never thought she would get pregnant so quickly, but hey, she's still family, right? I don't plan on taking anything from my son. It's just that we're gonna live together now, and I'm looking forward to it. For a moment, I didn't understand what he was talking about, but looking at Ethan's pale face, I quickly caught on.
What? I mean, it's really that, isn't it?
Ethan mumbled, not needing confirmation from anyone. I couldn't say a word. After that, I took Ethan and left the house. I didn't think it was a good idea to let Ethan and Jerry be together. Jessica looked puzzled, but I asked her to have dinner with Jerry and immediately headed to Mandy's place. Ethan, Linda. Mandy greeted us with a worried look on her face. It seemed like she and Ethan had been arguing about the pregnancy. Feeling the tense atmosphere, I decided to speak up.
Mandy, I want you to tell us the truth. Who is the father of the child in your belly?
Mandy then began to sob uncontrollably. She seemed to have difficulty speaking, but after I promised her that I wouldn't get mad no matter what, she slowly started to open. Actually, Jerry is. Despite saying he wouldn't get angry, I felt a deep anger well up inside me as Mandy mentioned that person. While I thought to myself what he could have possibly done, I also thought that Mandy was just as much to blame for responding to him. But I was mistaken. Ethan can't have children. He said if you want kids, it's better if they're blood related to him. He said that it doesn't change the fact that we're family. Both Ethan and I were lost for words after hearing this. Of course, there was no such fact. Mandy just kept crying after that. What an awful situation. Incredibly, Jerry had deceived Mandy, Ethan's fiancé, and had taken advantage of her. The biggest victim in this situation was Mandy. The distrust I had for her disappeared in an instant. I couldn't believe that she was lying. It's a delicate issue, so I thought we should keep it a secret from Ethan. If Jerry and I stay quiet, everyone else will be happy. Those words made my blood boil with anger towards Jerry. I'm sure Ethan felt the same way.
I can't forgive him. I'll make sure he pays for this and ends up in hell.
I nodded in agreement to Ethan's words. And so, I decided to fully support Ethan's plan to bring Jerry down. But first and foremost, we needed to take care of Mandy. Both Ethan and I apologized to her. She told us not to do it, saying it wasn't necessary, but we knew this wasn't something an apology could fix. I believe the child is innocent. But please, just give me a little time to think about what to do next. That's what Mandy said. Of course, we respected her decision. We asked her to contact us immediately if anything happened, and then we left her house.
We're back.
Oh, you're late. Where have you been?
Jessica and I already ate.
When Ethan and I got back home, Jerry acted as if nothing had happened and said that. Ethan looked like he was ready to jump on Jerry any second, but he held himself back and forced a smile. I just wanted to have a talk with Mom, you know. Dad, you've been banned from gambling, right? I felt sorry for you. While saying that, Ethan approached Jerry with a smile.
Right? You understand, don't you, Ethan?
You can't really live without a hobby, right?
Well, yeah. You saying that made me think it over, Ethan. But don't go overspending, okay?
Jessica was the only one unaware of our plan, so she exclaimed, "What? Are you out of your mind?" showing her frustration. But that only made Jerry more confident.
If it's 3 against 1, give up. Finally, gambling is back on the table.
Just as expected, Jerry was overjoyed. He went gambling the very next day. During that time, we explained everything to Jessica. As expected, she was speechless and showed more disdain for Jerry than anyone else. I can't believe it. How can someone like that be a father? I feel so sorry for Mandy, Jessica said, crying. And from that day on, Jessica joined our plan. The plan was simple. Just let Jerry waste all his money on gambling. We, his family, knew his personality better than anyone else. Surely he would secretly dip into the living expenses soon. So I moved all the living expenses and savings to another account. I thought we would move on to the next step of the plan after 2 months, but Jerry's spending spree was several times faster than I had expected. It only took 3 weeks for him to hit rock bottom, and he started dipping into the living expenses. And soon, that account was also empty.
What are you thinking? This is the second time. What about Jessica's college funds? How are we going to handle this?
I yelled at Jerry. Jerry said desperately, I didn't think it would run out so quickly. I'll get it back soon, just another $200. No, $100 is fine. Lend it to me from our savings. Even though I knew it would come to this, my anger toward Jerry, who really did use up all the money so quickly, was genuine, not an act.
You're not showing any remorse at all. What on earth are you thinking?
With anger and frustration bringing tears to my eyes, Jerry widened his eyes in surprise.
You've always been like this, only thinking about yourself. I thought I could endure until the kids were grown up, but I can't take it anymore.
With that, I slammed the divorce papers on the table. Jerry finally turned pale at the sight of those papers. Isn't this a bit too much? You're joking, right? He tried to calm me down, but I felt no sympathy for Jerry at all.
Jessica will stay with me. Since this house is in your name, I'll be leaving. Hey, calm down. It's just gambling. Just gambling? That's just the tip of the iceberg. I hate everything about you.
Jerry looked truly desperate now, seemingly realizing the gravity of the situation for the first time. But a mere realization like that was far from enough. My divorce from Jerry was just the first step of this plan. Jerry was whining until the end, but Ethan told him, Dad, you used to say our family was boring because you couldn't do what you wanted. Now you can do anything you want, you're free. You can do anything you like now. You're a free man. I guess you're right. Jerry, easily swayed, agreed to the divorce with Ethan's encouragement. Later, Jerry found out that assets had been transferred to a separate account for living expenses, and he was furious. I was just safeguarding the money. I don't see why I'm being yelled at.
You better split that money in half.
And he arrogantly said that.
I gave you the house, didn't I? So, if you sell the house, you have to split that money too. And of course, the fishing rods, camping gear, anything that can be turned into cash, you're gonna sell.
Well,
it's only fair, right?
Jerry was at a loss for words. He certainly didn't want to sell the house, and even though he had no plans to use them, he didn't want to part with things like his fishing rods. In the end, I took all the savings. With that money, I rented an apartment and started living with Jessica. I'm an adult, I'm gonna stay here, Ethan said, seeming content. But that's not the real story. Ethan said he would continue living in the house to report to us about Jerry's descent into misery. After that, Jerry slowly started going downhill, as if he was descending a staircase. Whether it's the stress from the divorce, or the sense of freedom from no longer having anyone nagging him about his gambling, he started going to gamble every day. It used to be just on the weekends, but now it seems like he's made a routine out of going after work, losing, and then coming home.
Oh, hey Dad, welcome back.
Ethan greeted him as if nothing was wrong. I'm home.
What's for dinner?
Nothing.
I just got home too.
What are you eating then?
This? It's beef soup Mom made for me.
And while showing off the food I had given him, Jerry would resort to eating bread. The look on Jerry's face as he enviously watched Ethan eat. Give me a bit. After a while, Jerry would always ask, and Ethan would always respond, absolutely not. This went on every day. Then, about a month later, Jerry, eating his usual bread, said to Ethan, Ethan, I'm sorry. If you're gonna live here, could you pitch in some money?
What?
You know, for utilities and stuff. Jerry looked serious, but Ethan caught on quickly.
You ran out of money, didn't you?
No, not like that but... Jerry said, avoiding Ethan's gaze. Ethan smirked and stood up.
I've been contributing every month. You used all that up, didn't you?
What?
I can't give anymore. If you keep asking for money, I'm gonna move out.
True to his word, Ethan had been contributing ever since he got a job. Even after we left, he kept depositing money into the household account. I forgot. My bad. You can stay here, son. Jerry desperately tried to keep Ethan from leaving. But Ethan, laughing, replied, You know, Mom used to handle all the household chores, so I pitched in. But when I think about it, you don't do anything, and I'm the one doing the housework. So, shouldn't you be the one paying the utilities? Why am I even contributing? At those words, Jerry was speechless. The only reason the house remained tidy was because of Ethan. Seeing the man he despised the most must have been hard for Ethan, yet he was still determined to push Jerry to his limit. Yeah, well, Jerry seemed to nod as his eyes darted back and forth, but Ethan said, Well, I don't really care since I'm leaving anyway. Ethan managed to playfully toy with Jerry while surely inflicting damage on him. Jerry frantically tried to stop Ethan, but Ethan brushed him off and left him behind. What happened afterward goes without saying. I started getting frequent calls from neighbors who didn't know I had left.
The house seems to be in a mess. Have you gone somewhere? Is Jerry okay? He seems to be in quite a bad state.
From these calls, I could immediately imagine the kind of life Jerry was leading. There were also eyewitness accounts like, some scary people came by. Should I call the police? I was truly worried about what was going on, but it seemed that Jerry had borrowed money from loan sharks. That meant he really must be out of money. As expected, I received a call from Jerry.
Linda, help me. You're the only one I can rely on now.
Jerry, who couldn't even do household chores and could only ask for money. I had no intention of helping such a person, but I decided to contact him.
I have something to talk to you about too. I'll be at your house tomorrow.
Upon receiving my message, Jerry replied, I'll be waiting. The next day, I headed to the house. Ethan, Jessica, Mandy. And an additional man. 5 of us went to the house.
Oh. Did everyone come together? I've been waiting.
As Jerry pressed the doorbell, he greeted us with an unnaturally broad smile. However, his smile faded upon seeing the man.
Who might you be?
Then the man spoke up.
Nice to meet you. My name is Young, and I'm a lawyer.
I'm here to discuss the matter where all of you have been victimized.
Victimized?
Yes. The infidelity against Linda, the defamation against Ethan, and the sexual assault against Mandy.
What?
Upon hearing those words, Jerry's face turned pale, he started to sweat profusely, and let out a bizarre scream.
Let's talk inside, shall we?
No. I have an errand to run right now. Sorry for the inconvenience, even though you came all this way. Jerry finally seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation as he noticed our stern gazes. The next moment, he shockingly tried to run away.
Don't you dare run!
Ethan caught Jerry in his tracks. And then he said,
We know everything you did. If you're an adult, you better take responsibility.
Intimidated by Ethan, Jerry shrank in size. After that, it was the lawyer's turn. Jerry, who couldn't rebut anything Suzuki said, just kept nodding while we watched him with disdain. No need to mention how I and Mandy felt about him. Also, you said that Ethan was sterile. Even if you don't spread rumors, telling that to his fiancé could potentially ruin his life. That's defamation.
That is.
Make sure you reflect on your actions. Then, the three of us demanded $100,000 in damages. Mr. Young explained to Jerry the breakdown and the reason behind the amount.
There's no way I can pay that.
Jerry pleaded and cried to Suzuki and me. That's when Jessica spoke up. Maybe you can get that amount if you sell this house?
That is.
We'll make sure you pay in full. Jerry had no money left. He was even in debt. He probably had no choice but to give up the house. Jerry cried and wailed miserably, apologizing profusely. However, there was no way we could forgive him. That's disgusting. Jessica looked at Jerry as if she was looking at trash, and Ethan also showed his disgust openly. Pay up quickly. And don't you ever come near us again. If you can't do that, we're ready to press charges regarding the situation with Mandy, just so you know. We left Jerry there, crying alone in his filthy house filled with garbage, after dropping those words, and then we headed home. In the end, Jerry sold his house. He used the money to pay us for damages, and to pay back the loan sharks, which I heard about from Mr. Young. However, he ended up without a place to live, and didn't even have enough money to rent an apartment. There was no one to help him. Even his gambling buddies, who he called friends, weren't close enough to help him out. Now, he seems to be living in a motel, having borrowed money in advance from his salary at work. How long will he be able to live like that? If things continue this way, he will end up homeless. I thought Ethan dropped Jerry into hell with his plan, but thinking about it more, it feels like Jerry just carelessly fell into hell on his own. From now on, he will be forgotten by our family, and one day, he will probably just end his lonely life all by himself. After that, Mandy and Ethan got married. The baby is innocent. I can't let Mandy get hurt any further. Saying this, Ethan accepted Mandy's baby as his own child to raise. I wonder how much inner conflict he went through to make that decision. Mandy and I both cried at his words, but Ethan was the only one laughing alone. And then, Mandy successfully completed her pregnancy, and a healthy baby girl was born. Doesn't she look like her mom? Jessica immediately said that upon seeing the child. Ethan looks like me. And if she looks like me, that means, after a DNA test, it turned out that the baby was actually Ethan's. It seemed that Mandy's period had been off, and the baby was small, so the weeks had been miscalculated. Mandy, Jessica, and I all cried. However, Ethan, who had been holding himself together until then, cried more than anyone else when he learned the truth.
I will definitely make them happy. Both Mandy and this child.
That's what Ethan said. The next plan Ethan decided on was truly a wonderful thing. And I am planning to support him fully from now on.